Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Fat Minute. I'm your host, Don John, joined tonight by my amazing co-host, BVJ.
Hey,
Whoa, what the fuck was that?
I got tired of saying the thing that I always say, so I did that.
Oh, so you decided to become Fat Albert, okay.
Well, after the pizza that I just ate,
What kind of pizza did you just eat?
I had a. At first, I was about to be an asshole to you and be like, "I just told you, Donnie," but that was before we were recording. I understand now. But anyway, um,
Way to
I
kill
got,
the
I got,
illusion there.
I got a epic stuffed crust, from Papa John's with where it has like pepperoni spiraling in the stuffed crust, and then I got spicy Italian sausage on top of it.
Jesus Christ, you really did become Fat Albert.
Why?
Well, did you just not listen to the pizza you just ate?
Uh, no, you don't listen to a pizza. It doesn't talk. You eat it.
I fucking hate you. That's it. That's the show. See you guys in 2 weeks. Bye.
Ugh.
How's that pizza sitting?
Hey man, it it just got its tickets at the box office. We'll see how it's doing in its seat here in a little bit.
Did it do standard viewing or IMAX?
Smell-o-vision. That's like yeah. You can't ask me that this soon, that early. That's like you're like the waiter that like I take half a bite. They're like, oh, so how is it so far? I don't know. Let me finish my first bite.
Well, all right then. Your bowel movements aside, let's go ahead and jump into this episode here. What have you been up to lately?
Well, so I just had an epic stuffed crust pizza where they put the pepperoni spiraling in the crust.
Man, you're fucking on one tonight. I swear to God.
Maybe that's what this pizza is. I don't know.
What, drugs?
Yeah, I guess. I don't know.
Papa
What have I
bless.
what have I been up to? So I had to catch up on a lot of movie trailers lately.
Oh yeah, like what?
Can we just segue into me talking about that?
Yeah, sure.
Well, I guess that's why you asked. Shit, I don't know.
Yeah, like
So
Jesus
anyway,
Christ.
uh,
Man, that pizza got you fucked up.
yeah, man. I mean, and keep
You
in mind,
sweating? You sweating yet?
I was watching it. I was watching it during a scary movie trailer. So it's like, oh god, I hope I don't get trigger happy.
Jesus Christ.
um, so A24 released. Did you watch the trailer that I sent you?
I did.
Okay. So A24 released the first teaser trailer for one of their new movies out this summer called Talk to Me. And it was apparently like when you look it up on IMDb, it says 2022, which means it probably played at like a few like festivals or whatever last year. But then it premiered at like one of the main ones. I don't know if it was South by Southwest or TIFF or whatever.
Hmm.
And it's by these guys that I think they're Australian. I think that was an Australian accent you kept hearing in that trailer, right?
I think, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So it's like and I think they made like short films or whatever, but like this is like their main debut. I think it's like two brothers. They both, so uh, yeah, it's basically just seems like A24's remix of The Monkey's Paw, where if you don't remember that story, did we? Is that story from school? Did we read that story when we were in school, or because you probably remember that story from that one Treehouse of Horror, right?
Yes, I was about to say that's how I became familiar with the monkey's paw stories, that episode of The Simpsons.
I vaguely remember, and I don't know if it was they sure as hell wouldn't play this in elementary school, but I can't remember if it was like eighth grade or sometime in high school, but we listened to like an audio reading of it.
Yeah, I don't remember
And
that at all.
I thought that was like a cool thing, but maybe that was just the teacher trying to talk down to us and be like, "Oh, by this point, none of you kids can fucking read, so I'm just gonna play the audio tape." Um, So so anyway, the monkey's paw basically is just like the classic story of be careful what you wish for. Like, with every, you know, life giveth and life taketh, like
Hmm.
everything has a consequence and everything. And so yeah, that's what this movie seems to be like, kind of a play on that. Like, it starts off very generic looking. Like, I thought it was gonna look a lot more avant-garde in the beginning or whatever, because everybody listening, Donnie has very sour feelings towards A24.
Yeah, like anytime I see a trailer for an A24 movie, I'm always like afraid to say anything good about it just because these fuckers have tricked me so many times before where they'll put out a trailer and I'll be like, damn, this looks good. And it'll be fucking garbage. I thought The Green Knight was going to be awesome and it was fucking boring. Like, boring to the point that I wanted to fucking cry. Uh, Midsummer, I don't get it. Hereditary was kind of stupid. Like, and I just feel like this is going to be another A24 joint where it's like it'll have an interesting premise, but then like 80% of the movie, nothing's actually happening, but we're teasing something's going to happen, and then something happens in the last 15 minutes that's just kind of like, huh? So that's what I think of A24.
Hmm. Okay. I think you were a little vague with how you feel towards them. I'm going to need you to elaborate on that another
Well, you
time.
know
But
what? I
anyway,
was I was just returning the favor on how vague they are with their fucking plot points.
so, and I can't believe you didn't remember the first time I felt like you got burned, which was you didn't mention the witch. Like, I
Oh,
remember
the
telling
fucking
you,
bitch. Oh my god. This
I
fucking
remember.
movie.
Okay. All right. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, you fucking hyped this movie up for like it was out for what, like a solid like 2 years before I finally watched it.
By the time you watched it, maybe, yeah.
It had been out for at least a while before I finally like watched it on Netflix, and Jesus Christ, is it the most boring fucking movie ever? Like, it slaps its balls on the table in the first like 2 minutes of the movie, and you're like, holy shit, this movie's gonna like go off the fucking rails, and then it doesn't do anything. Like everything that's scary happens off screen, which I'm like, that's like the opposite of the point of a fucking horror movie. Like, I can understand how sometimes implied horror is more effective, but like when all of the horror is only implied, it's just like, bro, what are you doing? And
Mhm.
no, like, my review of that movie is it's only scary if you're a fucking pilgrim. Like,
That is, I don't necessarily agree with you, but that is a really funny like review. Like, that was one of those times where like you and I disagreed on something, and you said something else, and I was like, damn, that's a good one. I'll give that to you. Like, that was a good one. So hold on, there's a couple points I don't want to lose here. So what do you think? What do you think has been a couple of the scariest movies released in the last several years? Like, can we at least agree like the new Halloween trilogy wasn't scary? Like, those movies weren't scary. Like,
no, no,
you do agree there, right?
right.
That was because that was my problem with them in the end. It's like 2018. I like 2018. Halloween Kills. You and I don't see eye to eye on that one. And then I'm kind of like in this weird like neutral Swiss thing with Halloween Ends. I didn't finish it, but like I was kind of like I'm kind of in the middle of the road there, and you do not like Halloween Ends at all.
No.
But I like the I kind of like the event, the nostalgia event of the 2018 movie. But all in all, my main critique of that trilogy is that it's not scary.
Yeah.
Like nothing scary in that. Like there's shock, there's gross, but like nothing was truly scary. So what in your mind are a couple like truly scary movies that you've seen in the last, like, we'll say decade. Let's say in the last decade.
Oh, fuck. Honestly, I don't know if I can answer that because I can't think of a movie in the last decade. Like, we've talked before about how horror, the genre of horror, at least when it comes to movies, has like way more bad movies than it does good ones. Um,
Amen. Yes. And as much as I don't want to like shit on, I don't want to shit on an entire thing as a whole. Like, that is an accurate statement. I feel like if you had to go to Vegas and bet money,
yeah.
like, it's more likely for a horror movie to be some kind of a letdown or disappointment than like truly like oh, hey, this is a great film. Like, because that's why the great ones really stand out. It's like, oh yeah, The Shining or The Exorcist or The Omen, and it's like, okay, well, all those were in like the late '70s, early '80s.
Yeah,
Like, can
yeah,
we get a
yeah,
new example?
yeah. Like, I'm thinking of
It,
what I've watched in the last 10 years, and I just went on Google real quick and was like, what's the scariest movies of the last 10 years? And a lot of them I have seen, and like a lot of them I just talked shit on. Like top 25 horror movies last 10 years, Hereditary, fucking hated it. Like It Follows was decent, but I wouldn't, I wasn't scared by it. Um, The Witch, fucking hated it. Um,
See, the one that I was truly like you not liking The Witch again. Like I we're bouncing around here because you're saying, and I'm not complaining at all. You're saying a lot of different things, and there's a lot of different things I want to respond to here, and I don't want to lose track of it all. Like, I do agree that like The Witch starts out way too strong for its own good. Like, I agree there. Like in the first 10 minutes of The Witch, like that movie ain't fucking around. But
yeah,
then
yeah,
it loses it. Like it doesn't that, and that was my problem with the newer Jordan Peele movie Nope. Like there is an event that happens like in the middle of the movie. It's basically like Steven Yen's, pardon me if I'm pronouncing his name wrong, is basically Steven Yen's exit from the movie,
hmm
and it is like the peak of the movie. It's the height of the movie, and then it never reaches that high again. And I'm like, what the hell? But with The Witch, it's like, yeah, I can't help but kind of side with you there. It's like first 5 to 10 minutes, like it really like
yeah, yeah.
it really drops its pants and is like, let's go, baby. But like
Yeah.
and then it just falls asleep and snores. Like
Oh, so it's my
um
ex.
oh, so it pisses the bed. Got it.
I mean, yeah, it
Um
kind of does.
shoot. But the one that I was truly, and I didn't see Midsummer. I can't say one thing or another on Midsummer. That's not fair. But the one I was surprised is like you did not like Hereditary. See, I think, and I only saw it that one time,
Hmm
but I think Hereditary, when I left that theater and I went to the midnight of it. By the time it started, it was just 1 a.m. actually because we couldn't unlock it until then for some reason. I worked at a movie theater. Everybody, it's not like we broke into we broke into A24's offices. But with Hereditary, when that ended, I was like, this must be how people felt opening night of The Omen or The Exorcist or The Shining. Like that's what it felt like to me. So I was stunned that you at least didn't was like, okay, this one's okay. But so I was
Nah,
really shocked you didn't like Hereditary more than what you're saying.
nah. Just I watched it and then I went to bed.
Oh, shit, I this is a true story. This is a true story. Like I went home and I wasn't like it wasn't like I wasn't seeing the hash slinging slasher in the hallway or whatever. Like I wasn't uber paranoid. Like that was for me, that was a different experience. And this is what I think where horror is at now. Is like I went home and I laid down. It was time to go to bed, and I was all by myself. So I was being a big boy. Like my dad wasn't home, my mom wasn't home. Like this was my time to shine. Like this was the night I became a man. And and I'm just laying in that bed, like looking up at the ceiling with like my hands over my chest, like basically laying down like an old person.
Yeah.
But I'm just looking up at the ceiling like, what did I just watch? And I'm not saying that in a negative way, but like I was so, I guess, shook. Like I know that's a meme. I know that's like a joke thing to say, but like I was genuinely, sincerely shook by it. Like I was so upset. I went to church that weekend, and like I'm one of those people that like I only go at like Christmas time and Easter time, and that's it. I'm one of those people. Like I specifically made it a point to go to mass that weekend because I was so upset by it. And like my dad went with me. He goes, "Oh, I don't want you to go alone and whatever." And he's like, "Well, why are you all about this? What's wrong?" It's like it's June. Like what are you making a big deal for? And and I straight up told him, And credit where credit's due. I feel like a lot of other fathers, like if their son in his late 20s said, "Yeah, I saw a really scary movie, Dad, and now I want to go to bed," like they'd be like, "What the fuck's wrong with you? You need to man up. Why are you such a fucking pussy? Why don't you grow a pair of balls?" But like my I am on one tonight. I'm gonna have one of these pizzas before every single time we record. Um,
Oh fuck, my chest hurts.
so
Oh.
so I feel like any father would like, you know, toxic masculinity shame, whatever. And he was like, okay, all right, we'll go. And he's not putting me down for like why I want to go or anything, but his main thing was he's shaking his head and he's completely serious. He goes, Blake, I don't know why you watch that bullshit. Nothing good comes from it. That stuff's no good. That's nothing but trouble. You shouldn't watch that shit. He goes, I was never into that shit. I remember when like um uh and side note, like you bring this up, Donnie, that my dad was of the generation where like Richard Pryor was hilarious and whatever.
Hmm.
Like Richard Pryor has a story, or was it Paul Mooney who had a story? Anyway, long story short, Paul Mooney and Richard Pryor saw The Exorcist together opening weekend,
Jesus
and
Christ.
one of them tells a story about it, and it's funny as shit. Like it is so good. Like just imagine that in your second. Just imagine Richard Pryor and Paul Mooney sitting together inside one of the most legendary horror movies ever
Oh
on
my
opening night.
god.
There is no way that can't be a funny story.
Yeah.
And one of them, like, they make the point of how, God, I'm telling stories within stories here. But anyway, um, uh, they were like, yeah, when it first started, we're like, what the hell is this shit? like the girl comes down the stairs and she pisses on the floor. And it's like, what is this bullshit? But then like once she starts walking like down the stairs backwards like a crab or whatever, they're like screaming and crying and stuff. It's so funny. It's basically just how white people are creepy to them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because that was the punchline mainly. He's like, only white people can make this shit. Um, but anyway, Dad was like, I don't I remember, I'd be at work and all my coworkers would be like, oh, Phil, we're going to see The Shining this weekend, or we're going to see The Omen. Do you want to come? And I'd be like, fuck off. So he's like, hell no. And I just love that. That was that's where I think horror is at right now, is like, as far as what is what is scary, genuinely scary, I think that's like, it's kind of like what's funny, what's not funny. Everybody has their own definition of that. Everybody disagrees over, oh, you can't joke about this, but you can joke about that. Like, I feel like that's the same thing for like what's scary.
Hmm.
I don't think we'll ever have an experience like my pop saw, you know, um, the Boris Karloff Frankenstein movie
Hmm.
in the cinema, and he was like up in the balcony all by himself, and he was just a kid watching it, and he said it was one of the most terrifying experiences of his life. And that just sounds like an awesome experience. I love that he told me that story. I love that, like, he was there. But I don't think we're able to have that anymore. I think what it's now a matter of is what is unsettling or even upsetting, and that's what Hereditary was to me. It was like, it was a it was just a genuinely upsetting movie, and it's about suspense, and I guess just what we have now are violent thrillers. That's what it really feels like more than anything. It's like the thrill of it. But so anyway, oh yeah, we were talking about this new A24 movie.
I mean, I was upset after watching Hereditary too, but for not for the same reasons. Um,
And
I mean,
I'm
for me, the scariest movie that I've seen in the last decade probably would have to be Doctor Sleep,
see that I
and I
probably
wouldn't even really call that like super scary, but I mean
no,
that one scene when they murdered the boy that they like the kidnapped from the baseball game, that like
right.
really made me squirm in the theater though.
So that's what it's a matter of. It's not like you like it's stuff that leaves you shook, because like there, like, you see it happening, what's happening. It's like,
Yeah.
and that's what scary used to be for people, is they didn't know what was going to happen next, or like they were like, wanting to run out of the movie theater. Like, there's this awesome um video, it's like documentary style. It's just like opening night of The Exorcist, and like people are like running out to go in the hallway and cry
Hmm.
and being like, "I'm not going back in there," I'm not going back in there, and like, will we ever have a movie like that again, like that made audiences act like that? Um, I mean, the closest thing is like when they would do that like night vision commercial for like Paranormal Activity or other stuff where it shows like the audience like watching the movie and they're jumping at it, but it's like there's this huge like, I guess, not culture war, but like almost pop cultural divide where like jump scares aren't real horror. People hate jump scares, but it's like, again, like, what is your idea of something being truly scary in a movie then? Because it just seems like not everybody is ever going to agree on this anytime soon.
Yeah.
So, but back to the new A24 movie. It's these Australian kids at a house party, and like, so this is where it all spun off from. I was I was surprised at how like not generic, but just like basic the beginning of the trailer felt. Like, oh, this is just looks like a bunch of teenagers like hanging out, and then some jump scares happen. And I don't know if this is a real dead hand or it's just a toy that one of them bought, but there's just like these teenagers just hang out every weekend. They have this creepy ass fucking hand in the middle of their living room. It's like, okay, it is Australia, so I don't know, but and then like you shake hands with it, and you're able to talk to the dead. And so, what do you think of how the rest of the trailer looked
I mean,
based on?
it looked like I said, it looks like an A24 joint. I'm I'm cautious to give it any sort of praise because again, this fucking studio has tricked me multiple times before, and I don't want to fucking fall for it again. It looks like there's gonna be just a lot of moments where nothing's happening, and there's gonna be little moments where some stuff's happening, and there's gonna be a big moment at the end where something really big happens. So whether it'll be good or not, I don't know. Am I gonna go see it? Probably not, unless it gets really good reviews. Um,
Yeah,
so that's where I'm at with it.
I I mean, I have for the most part, I have admired or appreciated many. I don't know if I could say most, but many A24 movies for what they are. Like for me, like The Green Knight was very aesthetically pleasing. It was very atmospheric. Like it was a nice exercise in atmosphere. But I will say it wasn't much beyond that. Like, don't go to it. Nobody should have gone into that expecting like an action adventure, or it
What do you
was.
mean? What do you mean you shouldn't have gone into it expecting that? That's what the fucking trailers presented it as.
Yeah, but see, for me, I'm like, yeah, there's this. I just had a feeling not to expect that. I mean, I don't know what else to say other than that. But I'll never forget your reaction, which was in the last 10 seconds of the movie. I just hear Donnie go, it just had one of those endings where, like, no, you're not going to end it right now, are you? And I just hear Donnie go, all right, if this movie ends right now, it's going down a whole fucking letter grade. And then the music starts playing and it just says, directed by David Lowery. And yeah, the one A24 movie that I felt, and I haven't seen every single A24 movie, but the one that I have, of the ones that I've seen, the one that I felt truly missed was It Comes at Night with Joel Edgerton and I forget who else was in it, but it doesn't matter. That movie, if you want to talk about like feeling like you were lied to going into the movie, like, one, the title doesn't make any sense. Like, what comes at night? Like, never. It was just vague. And two, most of the movie takes place during the daytime. Like, and most of the big scenes are during the day. So like, the whole movie was just like nonsense. Um, but I mean, A24, if you're listening, I'm willing to throw Donnie under the bus. Don't group me with him. Like, if you're listening to this, hire me. I'm poor. I will work for you. I will ditch him.
Wow.
Wow. So yeah. Donnie, why don't you tell us about the Marvels trailer real quick?
Yeah, that dropped today. just out of nowhere. I just because I was just randomly scrolling on my phone earlier and saw that like, oh hey, there's the trailer for the Marvels. I was like, oh shit. Um, and yeah, you didn't watch the Miss Marvel show, did you?
For no other reason than I just simply not never got around to it. Like I had
Right.
nothing against it. Like I'm not one of those guys who was like, "Oh, I can't believe there's like a non-white girl in the show," and like
Yeah.
I just never got around to it. So sorry. She seemed like she did a good job though.
Yeah, I mean, she did. And the show, like Miss Marvel, is an example of like the difference between something being bad and something just not being for me. That we've mentioned on this show before, where Miss Marvel
Mm-hmm.
really is like it's made for Zoomers, and I mean, hey, that's fine. I don't see a problem with that. Um, and I mean, I thought it was okay. I thought like the second to last episode was like it started off decent, and then like by the time I got to like closer to the end, it started to get kind of dumb. And
Yeah.
I thought the second to last episode was straight up garbage.
Uh-huh.
Um, but yeah, the character
No,
itself they did a good job with, but
I
I
appreciate you acknowledging like, hey, like everything can't be for me. Like some stuff is for me, some stuff isn't, and that's okay. As far as like white straight millennial men complaining about stuff, it's like, guys, you were catered to more than enough. Like you
yeah
got your fair share of pop culture and content and media. Like
yeah
you were well fed.
yeah
Like
just eating good.
yeah. But yeah, I just never got around to it just because my watch list is already long enough. And but no, I actually did. You posted it earlier, and I did watch it like tonight.
It looks fun.
One of
Like
my coworkers totally got it wrong. Like they must have been watching it with the sound off because
yeah,
he goes, "Oh yeah, every time they use their powers, they switch bodies." And I'm like, "No, that's not what happens."
they switch
Like
places.
they switch places. Like they don't like their brain doesn't, their consciousness doesn't go into the other person's. Like he totally got it wrong. So, um,
It looks a lot of fun, and I think it's neat to have like those three characters together in a movie. And I think that like their differing, conflicting personalities will make for some good moments. I mean, it looks it looks a hell of a lot more fun than Captain Marvel was.
which that movie was fine.
Yeah,
I
it wasn't bad,
like
but you know this definitely looks head and shoulders better than that, and it looks more, I'll say, well-rounded than the Miss Marvel show.
yeah. Um, Yeah, and like that's something that I wish Marvel, like from like over the last 10 years, like because it looks like they will do that more so now going forward. But that's something I had wished Marvel would have done more from the get-go, was do crossover, like, you know, guest stars and team up events like outside of the Avengers movies.
Yeah, yeah,
Because like Iron Man 3, like I was like, where I thought the whole point of the first Avengers movie is that like Bruce Banner and Tony Stark are gonna hang out together now. So like
yeah.
I was like, why isn't the Hulk in Iron Man 3? And then they fixed the sins of the past. They did an Avi Arad by like in Thor Ragnarok, like the Hulk was there. And I'm like,
Yeah,
okay, that's cool. But
and
yeah,
having Doctor Strange and Spider-Man, that was cool.
yes. So I'm glad that they're doing that more now, like
Hmm.
because it's like, well, what's the point? Like, if you're only gonna do this like for Avengers movies, then like, what's the point of it being a connected universe? Like, you can do this outside of the Avengers
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
So that's just something that I wish that they had done all along from the beginning, but that's nice that they're doing it now. Um, yeah, Captain Marvel 1, like, it was fine. I liked it. It was a nice little like prologue to Endgame,
Yeah.
or epilogue to Infinity War, however you want to look at it. But yeah, I just remember dudes were like dicks about that movie too.
What a
Um,
surprise.
yeah, just being like, there's like a YouTube edit where it's complaining about how boring she looked, and like they do like a deep fake AI where like in every shot of the first Captain Marvel trailer she's smiling, and it's like, wow, that's like blatant fucking sexism there.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
God, you guys aren't even hiding this shit anymore. And it's just like what I don't appreciate about it is that I don't feel like we're actually allowed to just genuinely like it. We're liking it because we feel like we have to. It's like, what are you talking about? Like, oh God, sorry, I need to calm down again.
Go have another slice.
But anyway, yeah, the Marvels trailer, it looked fun.
Yeah,
Looked fun. Um, the new Spider Verse trailer was cool.
I didn't see that. Mainly because like I saw the first trailer and I was already sold. Like I know I'm going to go see that movie. Like I don't need a trailer at this point.
It's a good strategy. I think that that's what I'm gonna do. So that's what I'm gonna do now is like I'll watch the teaser trailer to stuff and then just
Hmm.
try to leave it at that. Um, I mean, yeah, there were so many movies where it's like 3 to 4 weeks before they'd release. It's like, oh, here's the final trailer that's 5 minutes long, and it's like,
Yeah,
well, I've made it this far. At this point, I'm good. Like if I'm gonna go see it, I'm gonna go see it.
yeah,
But um, yeah, the and then the Blue Beetle for DC, like, did you watch that?
I did. I mean it basically just looks like another Shazam kind of movie in terms of tone. So
Yeah. No, like if Shazam looked like it was made by somebody who was inspired by the Page Master and Matilda, the Blue Beetle movie looks like something that was inspired by someone who grew up loving the movie Star Kid. Like
yeah,
it very much has that vibe to it. I mean, it again, it might be a Miss Marvel type thing where it's like, okay, maybe it's just not for me, but it looked okay, but it was nothing I could really get excited for. Also, like James Gunn can't make up his mind
oh
if
my
it's like
God.
in the new DCU or not. Like he's like, no, the first movie is Superman Legacy in 2025, but then he's like, oh yeah, like Blue Beetle fits great into the DCU, and like if it does well enough, he'll stick around. It's like, dude, make up your fucking mind. Like,
As if that like whole reveal of the new DC universe wasn't fucking convoluted enough.
the best thing about it was what you said. This one guy that you follow, he just shows the screenshot of it and goes, "This just looks exhausting."
Yeah,
Um, so yeah, but so yeah, I guess that's it for trailers. There was nothing else. Again, like I watched the first Indiana Jones trailer and I was like, okay. I
yeah.
just feel like I don't know. I'll always love like the other movies, but it's like I feel like now I'm just anything new going forward. I just like I already experienced that. I outgrew it. So
I mean, for me, it's like Harrison Ford's like 80 fucking years old. Nobody wants to see that. Like,
I and it's directed by the guy who did Logan. It's directed by James Mangold, and which good for him. But that also feels weird. That's like okay, so this is the final Indiana Jones movie, and it's just randomly not directed by Steven Spielberg, even though he did all the other ones. It'd be one thing if he only did one of them, and then a different person did the other ones. But it's like now it's weird. It's like the first four are one guy, and then the last one's just a completely different person. Like that just feels really lopsided.
yeah.
And it's like so it's directed by James Mangold, and it's like, oh, okay, so maybe they'll not do. And again, I don't dislike this movie like other people do. I liked it when I saw it when I was a teenager in theaters. But a big critique or criticism with Kingdom of the Crystal Skull is that there was too much CGI in it. And I'm like, oh, I bet James Mangold is gonna like avoid CGI as much as he can. No, like
Nope.
this new Indiana Jones movie looks like it uses a fuck ton of CGI.
Yeah.
Like they're like in a parade in the middle of Times Square, and like the confetti is obviously computer animated, and it's
Yeah.
like it's fucking confetti. Like it just, I don't know. I'll probably take my dad to it, but maybe it's just best to go in with low expectations. I don't know. I just feel like I just don't know. But yeah,
The
I feel like I've
trailer.
been hogging the mic most of the episode.
No, you're all good, baby. Um,
Oh, okay, thanks.
the trailer for Ahsoka dropped like what last week, week before. That looks fucking awesome.
So I only watched the first season of The Mandalorian, and I liked it.
Hmm.
And again, like with the second season and beyond, I just never got around to it. And there's not much more of an explanation than that. I just never got around to it. And I don't think I've watched any of the other Star Wars stuff. Like, yeah, I think I watched Mandalorian 1 and nothing else. But I watched that Ahsoka trailer and I was like, this actually looks kind of cool.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I am not a Star Wars person at all, but like I am a little burned out on the MCU, and I feel like I'm having less and less reasons to get excited for the future of DC. So I need to find some good genre escapism somewhere. So I don't know. Maybe it's like a Hallmark movie. Maybe right now Star Wars on Disney Plus turns out to be the unlikely relationship that I never thought I'd have.
Well, I will say, like, a lot of people online, there's a lot of online discourse, people talking shit about Disney's handling of Star Wars. And I mean, the quality of the sequel trilogy is a discussion for an entirely different episode.
Yes.
But
That
like
we need to do. But yeah.
but when it comes to like the Star Wars TV shows, like for the most part, they've been really good. Like the only Star Wars show that I've watched that I was like that kind of sucked was the Book of Boba Fett.
Which
Um,
seems to be the popular consensus too.
yeah,
Well, I heard the best episode of the Book of Boba was the
the
one
one he
episode,
wasn't even in.
the one that he wasn't even in. Like,
Yeah, there's like
which
two episodes where they bring in Mando from Mandalorian, like because the show's really just Mandalorian season two and a half. Um, but yeah, well, it's because like the first couple episodes are really good, where it shows Boba Fett like how he escaped from the Sarlacc pit at the end of like Return of the Jedi, and you know how he got like back on his feet again and all that. But then the rest of the series, like he doesn't act like Boba Fett at all, and he gets his ass kicked every other scene. And yeah, like the best episodes are the two where he's not even there.
well, it's like also I heard that it's just the morality is inconsistent because like they
Yeah,
do try
yeah,
to make him like a humble, noble, like heart of
yeah.
gold type
They
guy, and it's
they
like this does
do.
not match the dude that tried to murder Luke Skywalker in Return
Yeah,
of the Jedi.
I'm like
Like
he's the most feared bounty hunter in the galaxy. What are you people doing?
they're trying to make him like Wolverine. I feel like
Yeah,
like he's
it.
just the tough guy, but like he has a sweetheart, and it's like this dude tried to murder like the Skywalker family and Han Solo.
Yeah, it wasn't a good show. I didn't care for it. But like the Obi-Wan show was great.
I
I finally got around to watching Andor recently. That was great. Like it started off good and it only got better with each episode. The Bad Batch, I watched the first season of that animated show. It was decent. I haven't gotten around to watching season two yet, but no, Ahsoka looks fucking awesome. Like when Ahsoka like the character was first introduced with like the Clone Wars cartoon, I didn't really care for her at all. Just kind of felt like an unnecessary kind of character. But
yeah,
like as the years have gone by, like the character has really like grown on me and has really like they've really like fleshed the character out very well as the years have gone by. And I always thought it was cool that like there was the online fan casting where it was like, oh man, if they ever did live action Ahsoka, they should totally get Rosario Dawson to play her, and they did. And
that is awesome. That is
yeah,
awesome.
and I'm looking forward to Ahsoka, like because we get to see not only live action the crew from Rebels in live action, which will be awesome, but we also get to see Grand Admiral Thrawn in live action, which I've always wanted. I mean, Grand Admiral Thrawn was a very popular character in the old expanding universe, and Disney brought him back to their new expanding universe, and I'm like, we need to see this guy in live action, and we finally get him, and I can't wait.
Yeah, yeah, that sounds cool. And I'm not saying that to be passive aggressive or whatever. Like that does sound cool.
Any other trailers you wanted to bring up?
That's I totally as soon as we end this call tonight, I'm totally gonna be like, oh yeah, I watched that. But no, I think that's mainly it. Is Yeah. I thought I was gonna have more to say about Talk to Me, but no, there's not much to say. Like it's A24 is the monkey's paw. Like hopefully it doesn't. Hopefully it's up to your standard. Um. So yeah, no, I think that's all the trailers I had. What were some of the topics you wanted to talk about tonight? Other outside of that.
Oh well, lately I've been because I got a couple books here I've been reading. Just giant like collections of Spider-Man comics. Like I have they're called the Essential Spider-Man, and I have volume one, two, and three. It basically amounts to issues 1 through 68, like the first like 5-ish years of Spider-Man. And I'm maybe like a fourth of the way through volume three right now. Like I just got to issue 50. And I've just
Mhm.
been reading it, and it's just really crazy to me looking back on like these very early issues of Spider-Man and seeing how much of like the world that we know of Spider-Man and the character and like the world around him that we immediately know today like was established in these first in like the first year even. Because I
Mhm.
mean, in the first year of Spider-Man, you had, Aunt May, you had J. Jonah Jameson, the Daily Bugle, and then you had Doc Ock, you had the Chameleon, the Lizard, the Vulture, Electro, Craven the Hunter, Mysterio, like all those, the Sandman, like the fact that all those guys who are still very relevant to this day and are still super recognizable to this day that they were established that early, that long ago. It's just really interesting to me.
That's actually a really good point because with like a lot of the popular aspects and pieces of like the Superman and Batman lore were not presented up front like early
Yeah.
on. Like they kind of
Outside of like the Joker and maybe Lex Luthor, yeah.
no, like
And even Lex
well
Luthor like early on is totally different from how he is now.
well the thing is, well yes, correct. But that's like Christ, don't even that's a whole other ball of wax.
Yeah, yeah.
But like Kryptonite was not created in the comics. Kryptonite was from the radio show.
Yeah.
Um and there was something else. I think it was like different powers. Like different powers he had was like made up later on.
Mhm.
So yeah, so no,
Well, yeah,
to
because
add to your
because
point.
wasn't it originally like Superman didn't even fly at first? He just jumped really far. Like
Well, no,
they didn't give him the
right.
ability of flight until like a good bit later, if I remember correctly.
Exactly. The saying was can leap tall buildings in a single bound. That was literal. That was just he was able to jump real high and far.
Yeah.
And then finally they made it so he could fly. No, that's an excellent yeah, that's a good one. But yeah, no, Kryptonite was like created for the radio show because they're like, oh shoot, because it was episodic and it's like we need to end on like cliffhangers for to be continued and stuff. So they made up a weakness for him. Um, but the radio show is actually like, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to take this away to Spider Man. I swear to God, I'm going to give it back here in a second. The radio show is actually extremely progressive for when it was because in one of the early episodes of the radio serial, he fights the Ku Klux Klan, and this was at a time where like everyone was either like sticking their head in the sand or doing like hear no evil, see no evil, or they, quietly agreed with the Klan.
Yeah. Yeah.
So no, like for a radio show about a comic book superhero being like, no, like we're gonna make them the bad guys, like that was very progressive.
Yeah.
Um and like Jimmy Olsen even has a line where it's like where Clark Kent's trying to be like, well, their problem is they want to, and they just he explains how they hate other people who aren't white, and Jimmy Olsen says what makes America great is that we have all kinds of different people here. Like, keep in mind, like this was on a show before TV,
Yeah.
and that's actually extremely impressive. So I had to I had to gush over that piece of history for my favorite character. But yeah, but no. So back to Spider-Man.
Yeah, just like I was saying, it's just something I noticed how it's crazy how with Spider-Man, because a coworker of mine recently said it with Spider-Man. Like Spider-Man's one of those things that's universal. Where he said, "My dad is 85 years old and my niece is 4 years old, but I bet if I asked both of them who's Spider-Man, they'd be able to tell me the basics at least."
Yeah,
Um, and it's just crazy to me how all of that was established so early on, and it's been consistently like you know kept kept up with for 60 years now. Whereas,
yeah,
yeah, like we talked about with Superman, Superman was totally different back then than how he is now. Batman was very different back then to how he is now. Um, so I mean, even a lot of the villains who were introduced in the beginning or near the beginning that are still around are very like Mr. Freeze was a completely different character when he was first introduced to how he got totally redone thanks to the animated series.
I think
Um,
a Clayface was very different in the beginning.
yeah, like the only
Yeah.
like as far as Batman's concerned, the only villain that was like introduced early on and has been pretty consistently the same is the Joker. And
Well,
even he has had kind of different iterations depending on
well,
who's writing.
he was supposed to be like a one and done appearance. Like they were gonna kill him off, and then that was it. Like he wasn't supposed to be reoccurring, let alone his arch nemesis.
Yeah,
So yeah,
but, yeah,
yeah,
that's all I got to say about that.
that's cool.
I will say too, also like the early, because I don't know how long Stan Lee was like the writer for, like at what point he stopped being like the writer for everything for Marvel. But like, even though he was the writer for pretty much all of Marvel at this time that these comics came out, you can tell he's really letting his like personality and like weird sense of humor shine in Spider-Man. Like that's 100% him.
Well, people, I feel like a lot of more often than not, so many people need to be reminded that like Stan Lee did not create Wolverine.
Right.
Like one of the most popular, not one of, but the most popular X-Men character,
Yeah.
and in the movies, like the main character, was not created by Stan Lee. Yeah.
Well, neither was Captain
Um,
America.
well, yeah, it was kind of the opposite. Like Captain America was before Stan Lee because
Yeah.
Marvel existed before Stan Lee. Like I feel
Yeah.
like a lot of other people don't realize that. He just made the majority of what fills their universe.
Right.
Um, and then Wolverine was created like much later on. I think Wolverine was like what, the 70s?
Yeah, I want to say he was like 78, 79, somewhere in there.
Yeah, yeah. Stan Lee didn't come on until
Stan Lee,
the
Stan Lee was he came on like early 60s, like because Spider-Man was 62.
Spider-Man was 62. Yeah, so like Captain America was like 20 years before Stan Lee. Like people
Yeah.
don't realize that.
Yeah.
Just imagine like 20 years ago was 2003. Like that's the time difference.
Yeah.
Um so no, it's so crazy how like, and this is just broad like in general, like it's so crazy how when time goes on we group completely different time periods together.
Hmm.
Um, just like, like, I don't know, this is just maybe reaching, but when a radio station is like, oh yeah, we play the 70s, 80s, and 90s, and it's like they almost say it like it's the same decade.
Yeah.
And it's like those are very three distinct different time periods. In fact, like it's more than three, because like the early 70s and the late 70s are very different.
Hmm.
The early 90s and the late 90s are very different. So yeah, I didn't mean to get too stuck in the weeds there, but yeah.
All right, well, let's move on to our next thing here. I thought it'd be kind of funny for us to do this. I found a "How Communist Are You" test online, um,
Sure.
and it's I will say it's a lot more in depth and intellectual than other like quote unquote personality tests you see online. Like I'm sure if you go on Google, type in like communist test, like one of the first questions would be, "What's your favorite color?" Blue. Oh, you are 100% communist. Um,
Yeah.
this one
This
actually
ain't a BuzzFeed quiz.
No, this quiz actually asks questions that are related to like the ideals of communism. And I thought
Okay.
I thought it would just be funny for us to take this considering, we are obviously very liberal and we're at the age we're in the era now where if you're conservative, everything you don't like is communist. So, let's see how communist we actually are, Blake. Um,
Let's upset some people.
yeah, let's upset some people. That's what we're here to do. It's 24 questions, and the way it works is it's on a scale of 1 to 5 for each question, where like 1 is strongly disagree, 2 is disagree, 3 is neutral, 4 is agree, and 5 is strongly agree.
Okay. Okay.
So, and I got 2 of them open here, one for each of us.
Okay.
So, first question, artists should have no private ownership or copyright over the works that they create.
I'm
I
gonna
mean,
say, yikes. Mm,
I mean, I'll tell you my answer right now. I strongly disagree with that. Artists should absolutely have private ownership and copyright over the works that they create. Like, you made it, it's yours. You get to decide how it's used in the world.
yeah. Yeah. It's. Mm, God, that's a good one, man. First question, I'm already fucking up. Um, well, okay, so I'll explain why. The reason why I'm like stumped is because I can't help but think of Alan Moore bitching about Watchmen,
Yeah.
and it's like in him getting offended that like DC Comics wanted to make more Watchmen stories, like they did the prequel series before Watchmen, and it's like, dude, like you made something that was popular, like of course they're gonna want to make more of that, like, but I'll say you said two is disagree, right?
Yeah.
I'm gonna give it a two.
Okay.
I'm gonna give it a two.
Next question. Slacking is part of human nature and will only increase in societies where there is no promise of personal financial gain.
Slacking is natural, only increase where there's no promise of. Yeah, I strongly agree.
I'm going to give it a 4 instead of a 5. Just because I don't. Hmm, how do I word this? I don't. You're going with a 5, right?
Yeah, I'm going with a five.
Okay. Like slacking has negative connotations to it. I wouldn't say slacking is part of human nature, but I will say like working yourself to death is not part of human nature, so therefore the opposite, which is being relaxed and laid back, is part of human nature. Because like they say, nobody wants to work anymore. I mean, nobody actually wants to work. I guarantee if you went to anybody right now and get him, said, "Hey, here's $1 billion," they wouldn't keep working. Um,
Yeah,
but I wouldn't say slacking, just because again it has like a negative connotation, like you're not doing anything productive, and I
I,
don't
I,
I,
I
I, I don't think that is part of human nature, and I don't think it would increase if there's no promise of personal financial gain. I think there are people, I think most people, the large majority of people, even if there's no personal financial gain, if they were able to do something just for the enjoyment of doing it or just for the benefits it would give to like their surrounding community, would
mhm.
continue to do stuff.
See. Okay, that's a good approach. I was thinking of it in the sense of when people feel as though their worth is not acknowledged enough, they will lose their passion in whatever they feel was neglecting them. That's what I was looking at it as. I'm still going to stick with a five though.
Okay. The next question. People will not work hard in countries where they cannot get rich from their work.
Um, See, the thing is here is like, this is a good test. This is a really
Yeah,
good test.
I told you.
Um, it's that you can't paint entire societies or civilizations or populations with a broad stroke. Um, I want to say three. I'm going to be neutral because I think there will be plenty of people who, yes, agree, but
Hmm.
then there would still be other people who like no, like they would still do it for the sake of like if you're able to make an honest, modest living off of doing what you love, you never work a day in your life. Like, okay, like I would settle for that. Like, I don't want to be like, I don't want to be like, uh, uh, have this like excessive lifestyle. I don't want to be Jordan Belford, but like, I would still like to live comfortably and do
Hmm.
what I enjoy too. So I'm gonna say three. Like, there's plenty of people. Yes, there's plenty of people. No.
I'm gonna go with a 2, because I think even in like I look at because it's saying in countries where they cannot get rich from their work. I take that to mean like really impoverished, like third world countries. And I see
Mm,
I look at those countries and people are still and like they're still hustling and doing whatever they can to put food on the table. So I'm gonna go with a 2.
okay.
All right, next question. There should be a 100% tax on all inheritance.
A 100% tax.
On all inheritance.
As in like you don't get to keep any of it or
100% tax.
mm, one.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with a 1.
One.
Just
That's
just for
bullshit.
for more than anything, just because it's impractical.
Yeah.
And two, it's like I don't even. I'm kind of the mindset. I don't think inheritance should be taxed at all because it's like I just don't feel like the government has the right to come in and take anything that you give to your to whoever you want to. You know,
Yeah.
like this is my shit. I earned it. I paid my part to society. I want to give it to my kids. I don't think there's.
Right.
Yeah. At the
Right.
very
And
least,
I don't.
there shouldn't be 100% tax.
Right. And I don't want to sound like a libertarian there, but it's like also like libertarianism is still bullshit. It's like,
Yeah, yeah,
oh yeah, we just think that it's like, no, you're just a Republican who smokes weed. Like,
yeah.
whatever. Shut up. But yeah, I'm gonna say strongly disagree. One. Yeah.
All right. Next question. All means of communication should be centralized in the hands of the state.
Uh See, that's just like one of those like statements where like at first I'm like, oh, okay, whatever, but then it's like, oh, I feel like that could be a bad thing.
Yeah. I
I'm
mean,
gonna say two. I'm gonna
yeah,
say two.
I'm going to go with a two as well because I don't think every form of communication should be centralized by the government, but I do think, there's regulations for like, for example, the FCC. That stuff exists for a reason. We can't
Yeah,
just let, have people go ham and have full reign on that kind of stuff.
yeah,
And I think also, having the government involved in communication, because I'm thinking of stuff like C-SPAN, like, I mean,
yeah,
I think the government should be involved just for the sake of, one, regulating and whatnot, and two, like regulating for the sense of making it, fair and um, accessible for everybody.
yeah, yeah. No,
And
that's
also
good.
just to offer some transparency on their part. Um, so yeah, I'll go with it too.
Yeah, yeah.
Next question. The state should ensure an even-handed distribution of the population across the nation's territory.
As in, like, as in the government steps in is like, sorry, we have too many people living in this area. Some of you have to move somewhere else.
Yeah,
Is there any type of assistance or compensation in that?
it does not say. It just says the state should ensure an even-handed distribution of the population across the nation's territory.
Uh,
I mean,
I'm gonna
since it says ensure, I'm going to take that to mean that there is assistance involved
and
because
compensation.
yeah,
Um,
since I mean, I don't know how you could insure anything if you aren't willing to help out with it.
exactly. It's like okay, you want me to move to this other area I wasn't even interested in? Are you paying for my fucking moving expenses? Like, yeah.
Right,
So,
right.
I still want to say no. Like, I still want to say two. Disagree because it's like if people want to live somewhere, like that's the whole point of us living in a free nation, or
Hmm.
and I'm not trying to sound like a fucking Daily Wire bro or whatever, but it's like, yeah, that's the whole point of living like in freedom. Like if I desire to live in a certain region or area of the country, I should, if and I'm able to afford it of my own, like I should be able to do that.
I'm gonna go with a three. I'm gonna be neutral on this one because I don't think the government should like step in and be like, "We have too many people here. You need to go over here." But I do think it would be beneficial if the government invested in different parts of the country and you know built up those certain places to make them more desirable so people would want to move there.
That's a good point too. Yeah, there's a lot of angles to these questions. Yeah, because I two places come to mind. Like I'm thinking of like how there's so many people in New York, like not
Hmm.
just New York City, not just New York City, but just New York State in general. And then I think of the Dakotas, like
Right.
yeah, like it'd be nice if we would invest and like be able to make New York cities all across the country.
Right.
Um, I'm still gonna keep it. Shit. Um, Well, the thing is, like, I'm gonna stick with just the question in black and white. Like, I like what you just said.
Hmm.
I like what you just said better than the question. Like, yes, invest in other places, but then like I'm just gonna stick with, the yes or no of the question itself. So I'm sticking with it too.
Okay. Next question. The state should ensure that all citizens have universal basic income decoupled from labor performance.
I would say, I mean, that would help out a lot of people. Yeah, I would say four. Four, agree.
I'm gonna go
But,
with a four as well. I think we live in. I mean, the pandemic really showed us that a lot of the stuff that certain politicians have been saying for years the government can't afford to do, they absolutely can afford to do, and they just choose not to. Um, and I think a government of any nation owes its populace the ability to fucking live.
yeah.
So yeah, I'm gonna go
Well,
with a four.
it's like what you'll say. It's you have a saying that you've told me before. It's like we're all one bad day away from being homeless.
Yeah, yeah,
So it's like, yeah, like right now I'm rather comfortable, but like the rest of this week could really go to shit. And it's like I, I've proven to be a good person in society. So I feel like, society should have my back.
yeah.
So,
All right, next question. A one-party system would get rid of a lot of the nonsense in politics and lead to better decisions overall.
ooh, uh, one party? No, no. I'm gonna say strongly disagree. But then it's like I'm one of those people where every time somebody says, "Oh, we need a third party. We need a viable third party option," I kind of roll my eyes. And like, it'd be nice if we just had more options of like genuinely good people. But
Hmm.
it's like what you've been saying, where it's like, can we just acknowledge that like all the third party candidates for the last like several years haven't even been good?
Right.
So yeah, no, one party, no, that just really sounds like a bad idea. No, strongly disagree.
I'm gonna go with a one as well, just because like if you have a one-party system, like you can't paint large groups of people in black and white like that. Like
No,
one-party system would not get rid of any nonsense in politics. It would not get rid of any disagreements. Like it would not get rid of
no,
conflict and tension. Like that shit would still. Like a good example of this is like there's an episode of South Park where Cartman like ends up in the future and everybody, the whole world has gone atheist, but like they've like conflict has gotten so bad that like the world is split into like three sections because they all think that their version of atheism is better than the others and they're like on the verge of nuclear holocaust. And
wow.
so yeah, like no, one party system would not solve anything.
No, that's literally, if anything, that is the opposite of what people have a problem with right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, next question. The working classes across the world have more in common with each other than they do with the non-working classes of their own countries.
Um, I want to say I want to leave it at a three neutral because that just sounds like a much bigger question than I'm prepared to answer.
I'm going with a
So
five. I'm going with a five. Strongly agree because I mean I
maybe
think
maybe I just didn't understand the question, but you give me your reason though.
well, okay, working classes across the world have more in common with each other than they do with the non-working classes of their own countries. So, like, I think of non-working class, and I mean, yeah, I think a non-working class that to me sounds like somebody who's like super rich, like Jeff Bezos. Jeff Bezos is not working class,
Yeah.
and I think it's I think it's very very valid and very very true that I have more in common with, say, somebody in India who's working, you know, day in, day out to put food on the table. I have more in common with that person than Jeff Bezos.
Okay. Yeah. No. No. I changed my answer to a five then. Okay. I
Okay.
I didn't want to come off stupid there, but maybe perhaps I just thought that the question was going in a different direction than I thought it
You
was.
saw
I don't know.
non-working class and thought like poor.
Yes, yes, I misinterpreted the question. So yeah, no, I changed my answer to a five.
Next question. Poverty, disease, and early death are endemic to capitalism.
Um, hmm, I got to think on that. You go ahead.
I'm going to go with a four. Um,
Hmm.
because I'm thinking in terms of unregulated, out of control capitalism where, and I mean, we kind of see it now. Like, our generation is like the first generation to not only not have things as good as our parents and grandparents, but also like our generation is the first one to see the average life expectancy go down. Um, we see people working day in, day out, every day, 7 days, working 24/7 almost, and still struggling to get by and literally working themselves to death. And we see in this country people having to choose between, if they get sick or hurt, they have to choose between, do I go to the doctor or do I pay the rent this month?
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm gonna go with a 4.
Uh, I'm gonna go with a 5. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Next question. The absence of a free market economy will inevitably lead to the suppression of individual rights.
Fuck, these things are getting more complex. Um. Um. mm, it's a lot of stuff I can't do on the fly. I really gotta like sit and think about it.
hmm
You go ahead. You go ahead.
And this is a tough one for me too. The absence of a free market economy will inevitably lead to the suppression of individual rights. Um, I'm gonna
I,
go. Go ahead.
I can't help but think of how like we're supposed to live in a free market economy now,
hmm
but that stuff still happens. So
Right.
that's just kind of what throws me off. It's like, okay, like are we chasing a fairy tale, or like are we just doing it wrong?
Like, to me, like, the idea of a free market economy in terms of like how it's supposed to work means that like you and I could like start a business right now and be able to compete with Amazon, and or at least we would be able to build ourselves up if we, assuming we do everything right and we make all the right choices and everything, we would be able to grow to a point to where we compete with like Amazon. Like, the sky's the limit. But like, you and I both know, if you and I made a business right now and we started like putting even an iota of a dent in Amazon's bottom line, Daddy Bezos is going to come in and pull strings and make connections and buy us out or run us out, one or the other.
so in that sense, we don't truly have a free market economy right now.
I mean, you see it all
Um,
the time. Like, how many monopolies do we see in this country right now? Like,
yeah,
Disney owns 75% of all media in this country. So like, where's the free market here?
right. So I'm going to say 4. Agree. It's just what we have right now is kind of a facade.
So
Um,
you're saying if a free market disappears, then individual rights will disappear as well.
uh,
Because
you,
what I'm saying is if we're already seeing that, I'm gonna go with like a 2. Like, because if we're already seeing that with a quote unquote free market economy, like,
well, see, but that's just that. This brings me back to my initial point. It's like, is that truly what we have, or is it just this other monstrosity that's like has lipstick on it as something else?
good
Um,
point, good point.
that's what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to say is like just like how yeah.
Yeah, I
So
think I'll go with a 4 too, since you put it like that.
yeah. I feel like what we do have in real life right now is kind of like wearing a Halloween mask of something else. Um, so yeah, I'm gonna stick with a 4.
All right, next question. We are halfway there. Religion clouds the judgment of the masses and prevents them from seeing reality clearly.
Hmm. So we had our religion episode
We
of
did.
this. I I think I think faith could be a very wonderful and beautiful thing. I think it can be. That's the point. I think it can be a very wonderful and beautiful thing. Unfortunately, there are so many people that weaponize it at the expense of other people. Um, so and also like let's just be honest. Like I think a lot of the people who abuse religion and stuff like that, in private, they're probably not even religious. They're just
Yeah.
using it as a tool. They're taking advantage of, like, as far as normal people go, like our neighbors and people who live in our cities and towns, like, I believe that they believe it, but I think these like public figures and like celebrities and who make money off of it and whatnot, they're probably not even religious in their own personal private life. They just found that they're able to like basically make this circus out of it. Um, so no, but I think like read the question one more time for me, just once more.
Religion clouds the judgment of the masses and prevents them from seeing reality clearly.
I'm I'm going to put myself at a 3 because I think there are plenty of people who use faith to live a very ethical and moral life, and then there are many people who use it um to what's the word? It begins with a discriminate and whatnot. So I'm gonna put myself at a 3.
I am going to go with a 4. Um,
Okay.
yeah, like I think you're right. There are a lot of people who are religious and use that to be very ethical and be very beneficial to their communities. But I see a lot of, and honestly, I think this, in the case of religion, this side outweighs the good side. I see a lot of people who, are actually very religious and they're very extreme about it, and they're very dangerous in that extremity.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to go with a 4.
Mm-hmm.
Next question. All credit and loans should be centralized in one national bank controlled by the state.
Yeah, it's another one of those things where it's like it, when you first say it, I'm like, I don't know, but then when I think about it for a second, I'm like, that sounds like that can go really south.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, I'm straight up going with a 1 on that because, I mean, when it comes to finances and investing, one of the first things they tell you is don't put all of your eggs in one basket.
right, right,
Um,
right.
I don't have a problem with the state, like being a part of the banking system. Like, again, like with communication we talked about earlier, like regulating and stuff like that. And I don't have a problem with the state having like a bank among other banks, like, like there's your private banks and there's your government banks. Like, I don't have a problem with, the government being in on the market where, oh, I can get a loan from, the bank down the street, or I can get a loan from the, bank from the government. Um, I don't have a problem with that. Yeah, but like every bank, just there being one bank controlled by the government, I don't think so.
I'm gonna go with a 2. Yeah, 2.
A 2. All right, next question. The worth of a commodity should be determined by the amount of labor required to produce it.
Um, hmm. I it's I'm not trying to like do like white noise and just fluff here. Like that, it's a very good question. Like I'm not just saying that to buy myself time. Like that's a good question, but um, no, it seems one sided because it's like something can be very something can require a lot to make it,
Mm-hmm.
but it's like how beneficial is it once it's made? I
Well, and
think
also
that's
like how desired is it?
how desired is it? Yeah. So like yeah, something could be very. Yeah, exactly. How desired is it? So I'm gonna do a 3 there. I'm gonna do a 3. Like there's arguably more than one other side to that should be just as important.
I'm gonna go with a 3 as well.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, next question. The individual's best interests are indistinguishable from society's best interests.
One more time. Sorry.
The individual's best interests are indistinguishable from society's best interests.
Uh, No, I want to say two. I want to say disagree because like yeah,
I mean,
unless
I'm going with full blown one on that one because I mean,
yeah, there's a lot of self-centered people out there, so it's
exactly,
like
yeah.
yeah, I'm
I
going with a
mean,
one.
yeah,
Like
just
that
look
means
at the pandemic. I mean,
yeah. That's yeah, one. Yeah, is it possible for me to answer zero? No, that was one of those questions that had to sink in for a second. I was like, wait a second, what are you saying right now? So yeah, no, one. I agree.
well, you'll like this question. Many members of the working class who vote right wing live in a kind of false consciousness where they do not understand their own true interests.
Oh my god, fucking five.
Same. I mean, how many like
That's what my pop would say. That was one of my pop's main things to say. Is like there's so many people who vote against themselves.
yes, how many times have we seen it just in our town? I mean, and how many people have we talked to have been like, they should do this? It's like, motherfucker, Democrats are trying to do that, but you keep voting against them. Like,
Yeah, that was probably the easiest question on this entire thing.
yeah.
So yeah, five.
All right, next question. The internal contradictions of capitalism are so great that the free market system will eventually collapse.
The internal what again?
Contradictions of
Contradict.
capitalism are so great that the free market system will eventually collapse. I mean,
I mean, I
I'm going to go with a 4 because we talked about it a minute ago about, what we see now with quote unquote free market.
yeah,
I think free market, because free market and capitalism are two different things. They go hand in hand a lot of the times, but they are two different things, at least in my opinion. I'm not an
right.
expert, don't come after me. But I think a free
Yeah,
market system can work with other types of, economies. And I think they honestly probably work better with different types of economies because,
yeah,
yeah, like we see what's going on in this country now with, a very pro-capitalist kind of society. And it's like there basically is no free market system anymore.
yeah.
So, yeah, I'm going to go with a 4.
Yeah, I don't want people to think I'm just repeating what you say, but I was literally about to say four before you said it. Um, yeah, well, there's like we've seen that happen, like in pieces though. Like
Yeah.
obviously there hasn't been one great fall, like but like we
Well,
saw
it's also like,
the thing in 2007.
yeah.
And,
Well,
and you know we've seen it in pieces already,
yeah, it's like
in parts.
we've been told for like decades now by the right wing, like if we do these left wing kind of ideals, people are going to lose their retirement. They're going to, have to pay out the ass for healthcare. They're going to lose this, and this. And it's like we've seen all of that happen under quote unquote capitalist and free market economy. So,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
All right. Next question. Capitalism is a precondition for freedom to flourish.
uh, Capitalism is a precondition for freedom to flourish.
I'm
No, I want to say two. I want to
I'm
say two.
I'm going with a 1. Like
Yeah. See, I
capitalism
feel like
capitalism is not a form of government, it is a form of economy. And
yeah,
yeah, your form of economy, I don't want to say it has no bearing on how free you are, but
yeah,
it's yeah, like you do not need capitalism to be free.
yeah, yeah.
All right. Next question. There should be no such thing as private ownership of businesses.
There should be no such thing as private ownership of businesses. Um, no, I want to say one.
Yeah.
Is this saying like small businesses, right? Like mom and pop shops and whatnot?
Yeah, private
Yeah, no,
ownership. Yeah,
one.
like it's the same thing as we've talked about with the banks. Like, yeah, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, yeah, one for
Next
sure.
question. Class is not a sufficiently homogeneous entity to form the basis of serious societal analysis.
God damn, was that one wordy? Holy shit.
You need me to read it
Um,
again?
yeah, you read it again and then give me your answer because that one might have to cook for me.
Class is not a sufficiently homogeneous entity to form the basis of serious societal analysis. And my answer, I'm going to go with a 4, because the way I see it is like, okay, I'm middle class. Well, can you really compare like me? Like, let's say, okay, I'm middle class, and then we take like another person who is middle class. Say it's somebody who's like 10 years older than me and is also a different race than me. Even though we're the same class, that's not enough to really like form any sort of comparison or analysis between us. Their experience is still so very different from mine, and they could even be like my next door neighbor. Just the fact that they are a different age and a different race, totally
Right.
changes their world experience and their worldview. So I'm gonna go
Yeah.
with a 4.
Yeah. I would go. Yeah, I'm not. I swear to God, I'm not trying to one up you. Like, no, I'm gonna go with a 5 even. So yeah.
Okay. We're approaching the end here. The state should control all aspects of economic production.
I'm gonna say 2. Disagree. Yeah,
Okay.
I feel like no, I feel like that could again that could go south.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with 1. Yeah, I don't think the state should be controlling the means of production 100%. So
They
22.
should assist,
Right.
like if should it be needed. But yeah. No, I'm gonna stick with a 2.
The unequal power relations between business owners and workers are inherently exploitative.
Um, 4,
I'm gonna go with 5.
5.
Yeah.
Mm,
I mean, yeah. How often do we see it? Just employees getting fucking shafted real bad by their bosses, and
yeah,
yeah, like unions are very much a necessity in this day and age, and
yeah,
there's a reason people try to keep unions from becoming more of a thing again.
yeah,
So I'm going with a 5.
yeah. My favorite thing is when, sorry, excuse me. My favorite thing is when people try to be like, oh, they don't even do anything anyway. It's like, oh, well, if they don't do anything, then you shouldn't be afraid of them.
Right? The state should be responsible for providing all citizens with basic necessities, including food, housing, medical care, and education.
Um, yeah, I mean, like that would be the point of it, to assist, to help, to aid. Um, so yeah, I want to. Unless I'm again, I'm misinterpreting it. No, I want to go with a 5 there.
I'm going to go with a 4, because like medical care and education, 100%, yes, the state should be providing that. Housing, I just because I've seen this argument made before by a pro-communist person we are mutual friends with, um, saying that you shouldn't be allowed to own land and housing should be provided by the government. And while yes, I can understand the logic there in that shelter is a basic necessity to actually survive, I just don't see any logical way for the government to provide housing for people to where it's equal and fair.
Yeah, I feel like that's something that could like go south. Like I know I keep saying that phrase over and over again, but that's kind of like the sum of like the concern and caution here is like a lot of different things can go south.
Yeah.
So well in that way it's kind of a loaded question. Like I almost wish I could cherry pick it. So because I feel like I need to cherry pick it, I'm going to drop it down to a 4. So
Okay. And the final question. There should be no such thing as private ownership of land. Literally what I just mentioned.
yeah, I'm going to say so is this is I'm glad that it's not just a matter of like yes or no, left or right, black and white like um there should be no such thing as no. I'm going to go with a I'm going to go with a 2. Like it's something that could be abused, but it's like I just feel like there's no it's too it's just too big of a ball of wax just for it's almost too big for just one question. Like it
Yeah.
almost needs to be broken up into several questions. But yeah, I'm gonna go with a two.
I'm gonna go with a one. Maybe I'm a little biased being a homeowner myself, but yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, I don't know what kind of effective alternative you could have, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. It's too and that's the thing. Like the mutual friend that you and I are talking about, it's like he's never able to add any further description or explanation. It's just he's against it. And it's like, okay, well then in your mind, how else would it work out?
Right. What kind
Um
of system, what kind of alternative do you propose?
yeah. Because it's like because this guy, like, he's all about like, oh, you can't trust like he's like, you can't trust like the two main parties in America. You can't trust capitalism. You can't. But then he wants like the government to control all. Like it seems kind of like a contradiction for him.
Yeah, yeah.
It's kind of weird. But no, I'm gonna go with a two.
Well, let's get our results here. Blake, you are 35% communist.
Mm-hmm.
I am 39% communist.
Wow, I thought you'd be a little bit higher than me, than that.
And it says,
Um,
for both of us, it says your personal agreement with communism is moderate, indicating that you support some of communism's basic principles as put forth by the classical Marxian literature. While you most likely agree with certain communist doctrines, such as the reduction of inequalities and a certain skepticism towards the free market, you most likely also find that other features of communism go a step too far towards collectivized power and control. You also might have noticed that your degree of agreement with communism has fluctuated across your lifetime in accordance with your self-perceived status at various points in your life.
that's a very fair assessment. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that final rating.
All right, so there you have it, Republicans. We are somewhat communist.
Yeah. So, and and there you have it, leftists. I am a corporate sellout centrist. Yeah.
All right, well, do you want to move into our final segment?
Yes, let's do it.
All
We
right,
just doing the one?
we're just doing the one, especially since it's late.
Okay, I'm okay
We're
with that.
we're gonna be a little petty. We're gonna hop on the subreddit. Am I the asshole? I got a story for us here. Posted 4 days ago. Am I the asshole for being mad at my fiance because he told me he would not add my name to the house after we get married? So the story, my fiance, 28-year-old male, and I, 26-year-old female, started dating 3 years ago, and I can't wait to be with him for the rest of my life, but I think I might have messed up. We got engaged 3 months ago and are planning on getting married in November. And last night we were discussing some things about the wedding and the topic of our financial plan for once we are married. Are you putting ice in a glass?
Uh, Not anymore.
Why don't you do it a little louder? I can still hear myself talk. Um, anyway, we got engaged 3 months ago and are planning on getting married in November. And last night we were discussing some things about the wedding and the topic of our financial plan for once we are married, which is where the argument started because I asked him when I would be added onto the deed for the house.
Mhm.
So, background. When my fiance was 23, his uncle died and left him a huge inheritance, which has basically set him up for life, especially since he doesn't like super flashy things and only really spends money on his hobbies. And for the first 2 years after, he struggled to date because he was always worried that the girl he was dating was using him. I moved in with my fiance a year into our relationship and he has never charged me for any bills and only expects me to pay for luxury items I want. 9 months ago, me and my fiance had a discussion in which he asked me if I wanted to stop working because I worked as a teacher and he could tell that my work was not making me happy, which he was right. We came to the agreement that I would stop working along with some ground rules. The ground rules include that he would give me allowance every month and that he expected me to not just sit at home all day on my phone because he wants me to find hobbies and passions because we both don't want children. I was totally on board with the rules and quitting really helped my mental health. So when I brought up having my name added to the house deed, he got really quiet. He told me that he didn't feel comfortable adding my name to the deed as the house has been fully paid off by him before we had even met, and he felt that he is the one responsible for all the payments. This made me upset because I thought he was trying to say that I was using him and we are getting married, so I thought the house would become ours. He told me that things will become ours, but this was the first house he ever bought and that he wanted to keep something for himself. He told me that if we decide to change houses or have one built, which we have discussed before, that he would have both our names put on the deed. This made me more upset because if he is willing to do it on the possible next house, why can't he do it for our current house? We got into an argument and I left to go to my sister's apartment and texted my friend about the situation, and she told me that I was being an asshole and overreacting, but I don't see it that way and I think he should be willing to put my name on the deed. Am I overreacting and throwing away a good relationship, or is he being an asshole by not seeing my side?
I think he has been more than generous and logical. So I'm going to say she is she is letting this get to her way too much.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, I kind of want to side with her a little bit. Like, you're getting ready to marry someone, and the whole idea is when you're married, everything becomes joint. Everything
Yeah.
comes together. Um, and I mean, it's one of those things where it comes down to what are both parties comfortable with, you know?
Yeah.
Um, so it's like in that regard, it comes to like what are both parties comfortable with, and if what each person's comfortable with isn't compatible with each other, well then I mean that's your answer right there.
Yeah.
Um, but on the other hand, I'm kind of like why don't you want to put my name on the property that we're going to be living in together as a married couple?
Yeah. I
Because the whole thing with him saying he wants to keep something for himself, it's kind of like that's a weird thing to want to keep for yourself. Why do you want to keep that for yourself? What are you expecting to happen?
Yeah. Well, that's a good point too. It's like if you're nervous or unsure or skeptical, then why are you getting married?
Yeah, yeah.
So, but it's like
And it's
it's
also
definitely
like
a great.
you mentioned
It's a
like
gray area.
you mentioned he's been very generous, which he has in terms of like, hey, do you want to like quit working at the job that you fucking hate? Like, yeah,
Yeah,
that's.
like he has taken care of her. Like
But here's the
it's
thing: she didn't expect that. Like, he offered that to her. She didn't come in expecting or asking that. He offered that to her. And while yes, that is still very generous and very thoughtful, and like any of us would kill for an arrangement like that.
yeah,
Like that's still a world of difference there between him offering that on his own and her like coming and expecting that or asking for that. There's a world of difference there. So in that regard, like yes, he's been generous, but I don't think that necessarily invalidates her request.
hmm it's a huge gray area. I feel like it's I don't know, and I'm not trying to do my cowardly cop out shtick there, but I mean, yeah, when you first sent me the link to this and it
Hmm.
it was like the headline and like the whatnot, I was like, oh yeah, no, he definitely sounds like an asshole. But that was before I heard the part about how like you know he took care of her and was like willing, like, do you want to quit your job for your mental health? And like, and like, yes, like she didn't ask for that. He offered, but like, he still did it. Like, that
Yeah.
doesn't, I don't think that should discredit it. It's like, well, nobody asked for that. You didn't have to do that. It's like, they still did it though.
I don't think it discredits him, but I also don't think it discredits her either.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So, is there any update to this, or when was it
There's
posted?
It was posted 4 days ago. There is one edit at the bottom where they say, I just woke up after posting this last night and have been reading through a lot of the comments, and I know that I messed up and I'm already planning on apologizing to my fiance. I wanted to answer some common questions people were asking me. I called the money my fiance gives me an allowance, and some people said that it was a red flag. That is the word I use to describe it, but it's really more of a salary, as my fiance has me listed as an employee at one of his companies, to make it all legal and so that I can have health insurance and it's all in a legal contract, his idea, that protects me in case we do split up. My allowance is 5 grand a month, which I know is a lot, and I'm realizing that my fiance has put me in a financial position that most people would die for, and I need to acknowledge that. Some people have also talked about how much money my fiance has. I don't know the exact number, but he has told me the range and has shown me his finances and has told me based off of what we spend now, we could live this way for another 100 years. I will talk about a prenup with him if he still wants to be together, and that's all there is.
Whew. Um, damn.
Yeah.
I mean, shit. I mean, this is the kind of life we're hoping you and I were kind of daydreaming about having with Mariah Carey one day.
Oh
Um,
fuck, dude. I still daydream about that.
God, Nick Cannon really looked at her and said, "No, I'm good."
What a dummy.
Oh God, what a goober.
What a goober.
Oh God, and it's like I don't know why I'm getting off topic here, but it's just like
Hey, 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 hey.
that
Mariah Carey is never off topic.
that man was sick, and she said to him, "I will love you and take care of you for the rest of your life." And he got better and dumped her ass. What a shithole! What a shit ass!
And then he went and had like 20 kids.
Jesus Christ. Anyway, no, Mariah Carey is never off topic.
Mm.
In this house, we stand Mariah Carey.
Hell yeah, brother.
Um, yeah, that sounds like it's like I'm trying to tread lightly here because I don't want to come off as like a fucking like misogynistic or sexist. Like if the roles were reversed, if it was like a guy and like he had this argument with his soon to be wife, like I would still have the same like response and conundrum. Like you gotta believe me, Scouts honor. Uh, but yeah, it's like you you don't want it to come off as if you give a moose a muffin or if you give him out a cookie, like you don't want it to come off like that. But it seems like he is doing right by her in so many other areas and departments.
Yeah.
Um, so this is a tough one. This is a tough one. Can I just say nobody's the asshole? Like, can I just do
That's
that?
that's where I'm leaning. Like, I don't think anybody's really the asshole here. I think her wanting to be on the deed, like, I'm just thinking about it if like, if I were to get married
Yeah,
tomorrow, like, I'm not rich. I don't make enough money to just let, like, my spouse not work. So, obviously, very different situation in that regard. But if I were to get married, like, tomorrow, like, yeah, I'm putting my wife on the deed of the house because
yeah.
she lives here. She helps maintain the place. Like, no, you get a stake in this place.
And I think like part of her upset is like two more points I want to bring up right now. Number one, I think part of her upset is well, like she, like she tried to say and what you've tried to illustrate. I think part of her upset is like, are you waiting for me to screw you over? Like,
Right.
what do you think that like I'm gonna try to come for you one day? Do you think that like I have this dark side that I'm waiting to unleash on you once like I feel like I have everything tied up in a bow? Like, what do you take me for? It's like, are
Right.
you in love with me or not? Like, I think that is where her upset is coming from, which is valid. Like, and then also another in her defense is we've all had those moments where we don't want something to bother us, but we just can't help but feel bothered by it.
Right.
You want to walk away from something and be like, all right, just brush it off, shake it off, like whatever. But then you're like, well, God damn it, what did they mean by that? So we've all been in that situation where we just can't help it and be like, I can't let this go because I just feel like there's something there that needs to be resolved.
It's really one
Um,
of those things where it's not so much the house, it's what the house represents.
right.
Just like when people say it's not about the money, and it's like maybe it's not about the money, but it is about what the money represents.
Right.
Um,
Is a yes, 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 yes.
it's
There's
kind, it's
there's
kind, it's kind of the same thing as saying it's the principle of the matter.
yeah, and it's of all things, it reminds me of this one episode of Two and a Half Men where like um uh I forget what the brother's name who's not Charlie Sheen in that show, but he gets upset that like, and I'm kind of paraphrasing off of like a half memory here, but like basically he gives his brother a gift and Charlie Sheen kind of like either throws it away or doesn't take care of it. And the
Hmm.
whole episode, he tries to keep telling the story about why he's upset at his brother. And they're like, so this is all over a bowl? But he's like, no, the bowl is a symbol. So it's like, it's kind of like that. It's like, okay, it's about like what this represents. Like, it's more than that.
Yeah.
It was so that of all things, that's just what it reminded me of. But and he keeps screwing himself because like he does it in a very long-winded way, and everyone loses interest in why he's upset to begin with. But yeah, he's like, no, it's not about a bowl. The bowl is a symbol. So, but yeah, no, my final verdict is nobody's the asshole. It's an unfortunate gray area. I'm rooting for you both. Like, hopefully, it still works out because, lady, it sounds like you're gonna have a good ass time.
Yeah, I'm on the same page with you.
Yeah, that's fair.
All right. Well, unless you got nothing else to add, we can go ahead and end it here.
No, that's good. Yeah, right under 2 hours.
Yeah, you should have a pizza more often.
Whew, shit. That made me
Shifted the
be
turbo.
alive. Yeah, yeah. That set me to Wombo. God, that was like the fucking star in Mario.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Whew. That was. Whew. One pizza did what I've been trying to have coffee do for me for years.
Oh, well, on that note, thank you everybody for listening. Be sure to follow us on all social media at Fat Minute Radio. And you can always find our episodes on iHeartRadio, Apple Podcast, Spotify, and YouTube. New episodes every other Monday. And on that note, thank you. Fuck you. Good night.